We'll dive right in with your permission. I will just open the Mishnah. No, it's not this.
We can't hear you. Are you talking to us?
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Here. Now
I
am
hear you, but it says record. Okay, it should be fine now.
okay. We're done with technology. Everything's fine. Okay.
Let
So
us see.
we're starting we are continuing with a series of Mishnayot that are dealing in different ways with learning Torah. And the last Mishnah that was learned here last week was about having words of Torah while eating. And this Mishnah is talking about, well, it doesn't say explicitly about Torah, but it's talking about other situations in life that are not, they're not, I would say, at least in the eyes of the normal person, they're not outstanding or not very clear. It's not a time. It's not a time that we are doing negative things. It's not a time that we're doing things of mitzvah. It's just times that we have to think about what is the right way to operate in those times. And so let's read the Mishnah, and then we will get into a little bit of discussion about this idea. Would anybody like to read either in Hebrew or in English? It's a very short Mishnah, so maybe someone who usually doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Yeah. Where?
So it's number 4. It's here.
Okay. Thank you. Rabbi Hanina ben Hakinai said, one who wakes up at night or walks on the way alone and turn his heart to idle matters, behold, this man is mortally guilty.
Yes. Very strong words, right? One wakes up at night or walks on the way alone and turns in his heart on idle matters, behold, this man is mortally guilty. I would just give a little maybe comment here that the words in Hebrew are mefaneh libo levatala. They translated turns his heart to idle matters, but it could be also just turns his heart into doing nothing, to be inactive or to be not turning his heart to things that don't matter. And this man, the Mishnah says, or Rabbi Hanina ben Chachinai says, is mortally guilty. Mitchayev benafsho. So we have to understand what is so problematic in this situation, right? Why is this situation so harsh, so bad, so wrong, that a person in this situation is morally guilty. So let's try and understand it. If anybody has an idea, what is the Mishnah here about, and why would Rabbi Hanina say such harsh things on a person in this situation? Hello, Rav Shmuel. Welcome.
Hello,
Welcome to
Shalom
the study.
Bracha. I'm sorry
Please,
about my delay.
Please hop in the learning. We just started.
Yes. So, yes, come the interesting moment. This is, of course, a very interesting Mishnah. I actually realized something today when I was trying to prepare it, that there's actually multiple ways of simply translating it. I mean, I've been saying Pirkei Avot since I was very young. It's just in every Siddur, such a common, normal thing to do in the summer Shabbatot. But I've always read this Mishnah. Rabbi Hanina ben Chachinai says, one who wakes up at night, or walks on the way alone, or turns his heart to idle matters. Behold, this man is mortally guilty. I always consider like three different points here. There's somebody who stays awake at night, somebody who walks on the way alone, and a third person who turns his heart into idle matters. And the way I understood it was the first two are like health, so to say, like a bit of a health advice. Somebody, you stay up the whole night, you don't take care, you don't have a good, healthy sleeping schedule, sleeping routine. So, don't blame God if you get sick, so to say. You've caused it yourself. You walk alone at night, it's dangerous. Somebody might attack you or something else. If something bad happens to you, it's your own fault. You should have taken a companion with you. And the third one, that I understood is maybe perhaps a more spiritual idea. That you turn your heart to things that are not important. So maybe Hashem doesn't want to protect you so much. You're not considering what's important in life. The connection wasn't so good. But now I can see this translation, and actually I noticed today many mefarshim, they learn exactly this way. It's actually haneor balayla, you're awake at night, or you're walking alone in the street, and at that moment you turn your heart to idle matters. Either one of there are actually just two cases. Haneor balayla, you're awake at night and you're putting your heart to idle matters instead of using that time to study Torah, for example, or helping people, or whatever other more meaningful things you could do. Or you're walking alone in the road, which would be a perfect time to think about useful things. How can you help others? How Torah that you could study, other better pursuits. Instead, you use it as a time for, fantasizing and imagining all sorts of things. And it's like a criticism for a time waster. The whole Mishnah becomes like it's quite a harsh critique of a person who's wasting time.
How do you understand the phrase "mefaneh libo levatala"? Like if it's in Hebrew, at least, this sounds a little bit like an oxymoron. Like batala means doing nothing, right? Or doing something that doesn't. Bitul is usually a word for extinguishing something, right?
Right.
And usually when you say batala, it means like sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
It's the usual, at least usual explanation of what batala is. Now, turning your heart means you dedicate. So you dedicate yourself to doing nothing. It sounds a bit of an oxymoron, no? Why wouldn't the Mishnah say that he's turning his heart into negative things, or turning his heart into, I don't know, into things that are things that are not, that he shouldn't turn his heart to, or say just mitbatel, just do it, and he does nothing, and he does nothing. Like what is this dedication to nothing? How do you understand that?
You're right. I think the way I see this Mishnah is, it's not none of these three things. That's what's really interesting. None of these three things is a crime. That's what or two things, however you want to read this Mishnah. I think that's what's really interesting. There's no crime here, and there's no basis in the Torah that any of these people would be liable for the death penalty. It seems to be more like the point of the Mishnah is that these are very bad habits to get into. And if this lifestyle leads you to the wrong way, to death or to some other bad thing, it's sort of your fault. That's how I understood it. And this mefaneli bo levatala, I've understood maybe like you're very dedicated to like idle pursuits. You know, there's nothing wrong in liking football, let's say. But if football turns into almost a religion, like, you know, you had in South America, the story when countries went to war for it. If you take a batala, you take something that's not, which is, you know, just a pastime, not something that's really important, and you turn it into you like turn your heart and soul, you put your heart and soul into it, you can very easily like, it can develop into something negative. I don't know. That's my first thought, but I'm very happy to hear ideas from everybody in the crowd.
I want to even strengthen the question that I had to Rabbi Shmuel, because there's I think even it's a bit more extreme, in the sense that it's not about football. It's exactly those those are very specific moments. There are moments that you actually, they have no content. So it's not like you can turn it into something like it's harder to turn it into something bad. I understand when someone says you have a certain activity that is not very negative, but it's not very positive, and you're turning it into something negative by putting too much into it. Here, it's in Hebrew, you have a perfect word, which I never found a good translation in the languages that I know. Stam. Stam is like for nothing. It's just, you wake up in the night. Now, what do you do? And we can imagine the times when you have no electricity, no computer, you can't read a book, you can't talk to anybody, you can't go out to your job. You're just awake at night. Here, it's even more like what can you turn your heart to? Like, it's not like having some kind of an activity and saying, you can take it the wrong way. Does anybody have an idea with what to weigh a little in this discussion? I have some ideas of my own, but I think it would be very interesting to hear what others would say. Yes, Gisa Sarah.
I don't know if I understood it right, but it sounds to me like you're procrastinating a soul. Like, if you do not keep a good connection, good energy, at some point your thoughts will go to no good places. It will take you, it will trick your brain, it will trick your mind. And if once it's tricking your mind, it will trick your soul. And that's the most dangerous part, because once our brain is corrupted, our soul is corrupted. So I think it's about the connection. If you don't remain in a good connection between, you're not only physically, between your body, your soul, your mind, one of them will betray you. And that's what I understand from walking alone in the night. You are betraying yourself, or the other two examples. So I might be wrong, I might be right, I don't know, you can correct me, but that's how I see it. It's like procrastination, when you let things, when you don't do anything, then you get a kind of anxiety, and your thoughts come and you think nothing good, everything. It's like you live like in slow motion, and nowhere ways, totally away from reality. It takes you somewhere else. It tricks you. It's insane. It's not a good place to stay. So that's how I think about it. It's like it's kind of spiritually procrastinating, or something close to that. That's how I feel about it.
It's maybe, if I'm understanding you correctly, Gisa Sarah, so maybe what you're saying is that specifically because it has no content, it could be more dangerous, because then we could really get to no good places.
Because we need to feed ourselves. We need to maintain connection. That's why there are the prayers. That's why there are the brachos. There's so many things around, because you need constantly to maintain the connection, the good connection.
Thank you.
Good energy around you. So if you don't do that, it will take you somewhere else. That's our reality.
Thank you very much, Gisa Sarah. Rebecca Stucker.
Yes. I was thinking that it's the same person, not completely different situations, but maybe inside one person, and that when you're walking alone, I was not thinking of physically walking alone, more than walking or being without Hashem. So I was thinking that, of course, that with the idol matters, I think like you, Natan, that it's more that these times you could turn to God instead, and this is what not walking alone is. That was a reflection that I had.
So if I understand you correctly, you're having a third reading. Rabbi Shmuel offered two readings. One was that there are three different points: one who's awake at night, one who walks the way alone, and one who turns his heart into idle matters. This is one way to read this Mishnah. The other way is that there are two people, either a person who wakes up at night and he turns his heart into idle matters, or a person who walks on the way alone and turns his heart to idle matters. And if I understand you correctly, you're reading a third reading, which is putting everything in the same person, a person who is awake at night, and he is alone in the sense that he's not bringing God into the time that he's awake now.
Yes.
And that in that process, he turns his heart into idle matters, and he's mortally guilty. That's very interesting. And
you explained it in a better way, I think. But that's what I meant.
It's and it reminds me of the pasuk Gam ki elech b'gei tzal mavet lo yira ra ki ata imadi. Even if I go in the valley of fear, I won't fear, because you are with me. So maybe a person who doesn't bring God to this valley of fear, he's awake at night and he doesn't bring God, and the opposite, he lets nothingness or idle matters into his heart. This is maybe even, it's not even a punishment, it's a natural consequence that he's lost and he's becoming mortally guilty. Thank you. Lior Casus?
Yes, and Elena. But I think I have a perplexion, and which supports, I think, Shmuel's reading in a way, because there's something very odd about this Mishnah, because I'm used to all the, like, for example, Chazal really like stressing the fact, like this advice about studying Torah at night, like specifically at night. It's a very, very common theme. Like, I don't know, we read about David in Masechet Brachot, then he wakes up at night, or like he never really goes to bed, and so on and so forth. And it's really something that's being stressed about, like sitting at night studying Torah. And then I want to read it in a way where it's like, if you do those things and then you're idle, then this is bad, as Rabbi Shmuel suggested. But I mean, in Hebrew, it's a sort of like, I feel like
Like you meant sort of like, if you don't take the opportunity when you wake up at night to study Torah and put your mind to that direction, then it's it's like that, right?
Yeah, even though it is commonly translated as though we speak about three different things, but yes.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the problem with waking up at night or going on the way alone is if you're not studying Torah in that time. If you didn't study Torah in that time, you're mortally guilty. You're not allowed to walk alone and to think about other things other than Torah.
If I make that like somewhat correlate to what I usually hear from Chazal, then I think yes.
It's a very high demand here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yeta.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I think this words alone and you don't use your body and you don't use your heart, you don't use your brain. You are inactive, and that's very unhealthy to be a human being, basically. And I think also you have to do well things, to think well things. This is all kind of badness. And we all are some models for other Jews, other human being. Easy talking from me now.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Yes, Rebecca.
Yeah, I have a question because I was looking in a translation in a book, and it says the last sentence. It says, instead of this man is mortally guilty, it says that it endangers his soul. Would this translation be less correct or this one compared to the Hebrew?
An interesting question. I think what I would say, Shmuel, if you have an answer, I would say that it's a soft side and a harsh side of the same phrase in Hebrew. In Hebrew, mitchayev benafsho means that he was in many cases it means just that he was sentenced to death. And so a soft way to say it is that he harmed his soul in a way that is very bad, and a harsher way to say it is that he is actually judged by God or by I don't know who or to death. So I think
Thank you.
yes.
I think mitchayev benafsho is, literally it's about the soul. I think that's why the other translation would have said liable for his soul or responsible for his soul. But of course, Natan is right that very often it's used in the sense of receiving a death penalty. It doesn't say chayav mita though, which is the common expression, deserves death. It's quite specific. Mitchayev benafsho. It's that mitchayev benafsho is sounds more like you're I don't know, mitchaya often makes you think of responsibility. I'm responsible, or I'm liable. That's why I always understood this as saying, you know, if you die because of this or something bad happens to you, it's sort of your fault. You can't blame anybody else for it. That's the way I understood it. But yeah, it's a really interesting text, because as I said, none of these are actually a crime. There are crimes in the Torah where the punishment is death, but these are actually midot. These are character traits. They're not even actions in reality. So
I'm not
makes
sure they're even midot. You're opening of Shmuel. You're opening something that I thought I would maybe open a little more, which is, you know, we're talking a lot when we're talking about Jewish life. What are the definition? What is the definition of Jewish life? And we know about mitzvot and averot. We know about commandments and sins, right? And we know that there are many lists of things that we're allowed to do and we're not allowed to do and we should do, and some are from the Rabbanan and some from the Oraita. And then we have a whole other world or realm of, like you just said, of Shmuel midot, of the good ways to go. You should be compassionate. You shouldn't be cruel. You should be have patience. You should be act nicely to your children. You should, all of those what you called character traits, and that is a whole realm of things that usually we don't maybe immediately see them as the basics of Judaism, like commandments, but you see them all around, and you know they're a part of being Jewish. Part of the Jewish obligation is to purify your behavior. But now there's another realm that is opened, which is all the rest of the life that you would not necessarily connect it to religious life or to Jewish life. And here it's a whole new realm that I think we can really think about. Also in that sense, especially people who are taking upon themselves Jewish life step by step. Now I woke up at night. I have no mitzvah here to do. Yeah, I Shema will be when sun is up, and you know, there are many things there's almost no mitzvah that I could really do right now. There's no many sins that I can do right now, and there's nobody to express my character traits right now. It's just me in front of myself. What is the right way to operate right now, Jewishly? And going on the path alone is another realm like that. I'm on the path, I'm on the way. When I'll sit down and have my lunch, I will say brachot. When it's time for mincha, I will pray mincha. I'm alone. There's nobody around me. I can't do chesed. I can't be nice to anybody. I can't help anybody. I'm alone on the way. Now, what kind of a Jew am I now? I think that's a profound question. Maybe that becomes it becomes really the essence of who I am, right? Who I am in front of myself. Is God there in that moment? And how is God there in that moment? And I would say that what I asked Rav Shmuel before, I think that maybe as opposed to what Lior said, with your permission, Lior, I would say that maybe it's not necessarily about learning Torah, but the question is, am I putting some holy essence into that time? Or am I deciding to block this alone time with nothingness? To mefane libo, to turn my heart to do nothing. And I think we all know in our life these moments that we have an option to do something or to do nothing. And doing something could mean many things. It could mean, watch nature. It could mean sing to yourself a little song. It could mean think about thoughts that really matter to you, that all of a sudden you have the opportunity to think about who you are and what you're doing and go over things that trouble you. Have time to dream the dreams. What do you want from yourself? Where are you going? And if I choose in those moments to block my heart into doing nothing, I think I would say that nowadays the best way to do it is open my smartphone. But it could be also other ways to decide that I now need to do nothing. This is the moment of truth of, is God with me or not? Am I dedicating also the moments that were never defined as moments of mitzvah? Am I dedicating that also to holy moments? That is my approach. Shmuel, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you were you very much covered this Mishnah. I just noticed in the I just thought just this word mefane, or to turn your heart, which we were struggling a bit with earlier. That's actually a very interesting concept, because thoughts are thoughts, and we can't, all sorts of things go through our mind during the day, and to expect somebody that this, you shouldn't think this way, is obviously not possible. A person thinks different ways, but there is a difference between thoughts entering your mind and making something an interest and deciding to spend time and putting it in, and putting like your thoughts into it. And I think that's what you were saying when you talk about a smartphone or whatever, but choosing to do nothing, not that you're not feeling very productive right now, and you're not your mind goes all around the place, but to make that choice, I think that's very important. And I think that's very much what Pirkei Avot is about. Like you were saying, maybe going beyond the mitzvot and perhaps even beyond the midot. It's a book which is talking to you, like, you want to serve Hashem. If you want to serve Hashem, it's not just a rule book where you're gonna find all the answers. There's a path, there's a way, and this advice of this Chachamim can help you find that way. Otherwise, you could have a Jew who ticks all the boxes in the book, but he's still not really a servant of Hashem, because he's just trying to fulfill a list of obligations, not really trying to grow or be and if a good Jew is the right word, but a servant of Hashem.
Thank you. Should we move to the next Mishnah, perhaps?
Yeah.
Okay. Would anybody like to read? No, so I will read.
Okay. No.
Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakana said, whoever takes upon himself the yoke of Torah, they remove from him the yoke of government and the yoke of worldly concerns. And whoever breaks off from himself the yoke of Torah, they place upon him the yoke of government and the yoke of worldly concerns. Yes. So we have here two sides of the same coin, like Pirkei Avot likes to do a lot. Anybody who takes upon himself the yoke of Torah, I don't know if the right translation is they remove or the yoke of government is removed from him and the yoke of worldly concerns is removed from him. And many commentators say that this is actually also the worldly job, like the day-to-day day job that a person might have. And whoever breaks off from himself the yoke of Torah, they place, or the yoke of government is placed upon him, and the yoke of worldly concerns is placed upon him. Rav Shmuel, would you like to say what you understand, or should I start? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, there isn't on the surface, it seems to be saying that somebody accepts the yoke of Torah. He accepts that what's important in my life is going to be keeping the Torah, studying the Torah, doing the mitzvot. So Hashem will take away from you the other problems. You know, Hashem will bless you because you're His servant. You're going the right path, and take away other problems you might have. But if you say, I don't care about the Torah, it's not important for me, then, so to say, you lose this protection, this blessing from Hashem, and then new problems will come. Problems from the government, from the authorities. Problem derech eretz is a very wide term that can mean a lot of different things. The way of the world. My first idea would be here, it means like the idea of working or like having to work hard or managing to scrape off a living. So it seems like an idea here of you're doing what's right, God will bless you. And you're not doing what's right, well, you won't get that blessing anymore. And other problems in life, which will become bigger. But I'm wondering whether there's also a bit of a talking a bit to the person, so to say, it's sort of like encouraging you, because very often we think the opposite way, right? On the surface, it often looks, you look at the world, it often looks like, okay, I'm accepting very difficult laws. I'm going to study Torah. It's going to take away from my time. I'm going to keep Shabbat. I'm not going to be able to perhaps make as much money. Or other things. So on the surface, it looks like I'm losing out. So the Mishnah is sort of encouraging you that you won't lose out. You'll be blessed. And on the contrary, if you break the Torah, that's when you're going to lose out. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting hearing your thoughts on this.
I might say that on the first glance, I always feel a bit troubled with this Mishnah. As a person who was raised to believe that the yoke of worldly concerns is actually an important thing. I grew with my family taught me about Torah im derech eretz, Torah with worldly concerns. This idea that if I study Torah, I would not have the yoke of, I don't know exactly what is the yoke of government. It seems that it's a negative thing, government, and it's a negative thing to have worldly concerns. So on first glance, I feel a little uncomfortable with this Mishnah, at least in my humble understanding of it. And vice versa also, like what kind of a punishment is that if I breaks off myself the yoke of Torah, what kind of a punishment is this to have the yoke of government and the yoke of worldly concerns? It should be a merit to have this. So my understanding is in this Mishnah, it's somehow I feel like I must go outside of the simple understanding, perhaps. I'm concentrating on the word yoke, because the word yoke, first of all, it appears also about the Torah and also about the government and worldly concerns. So all three of them are yoke. And what is the idea of a yoke? Why is the word yoke here? What does it resemble? And the way that I understand it is talking about an individual experience. In other words, he says that when you have a yoke of Torah upon you, then the government and the worldly concerns are not a yoke anymore. They're there. It's not that it's not that you don't that you're not dealing with them anymore, but it's not a yoke anymore. The yoke of Torah, how would I say? What's the word mishmat in English would be, how would you translate mishmat?
Discipline.
The discipline, thank you, Arad. The discipline that you have with having Torah on you as a yoke, as something that forces you and that defines your actions, is so strong that the other things are not a yoke anymore. They are sort of embedded in the Torah. And if you're not accepting this yoke upon you, if you're not, if this is not your life, if that is not defining your actions, if that is not the centerpiece of your life, then the rest of the things become a yoke. It becomes something that burdens you. It becomes something that you have to deal with, and it's not going smoothly. That's how I understand it, but it seems to me like it's not the pshat. What do you think, Shmuel?
I think it's interesting. I was thinking along the same lines because basically, is this a miraculous text? Is it like you study lots of Torah and do lots of mitzvot, and then it's like magic. All the other problems are solved, which
The
is
government forgets about you for all of a sudden.
Right, which doesn't seem to be true based on our experiences. There are people who commit themselves to Torah, and actually the Tanaim of the Mishnah are probably the best example, because a lot of them studied a lot of Torah and were killed because of that, or suffered in terrible ways because of this yoke of Torah they were carrying. So to say that there is it's a sort of automatic that all your problems are solved, I don't believe that is what they could have meant here. But perhaps more I like the direction you're taking, that if you're studying Torah, that the other problems won't feel like a yoke anymore. The problems are there, but they're not important, they're not meaningful. They're not scary anymore. I'm also thinking about something else. Is like, if you go take this idea a bit further, I think everybody has some sort of yoke, and I think that's what I remember somebody was telling me that there's no such thing as somebody who's completely neutral. If people, let's say, don't believe in God, they have something else they believe in. Sometimes people's atheism is a religion, and they believe it 100%. But everybody has some sort of power, some sort of something above you. There's something that you accept, willingly or unwillingly or subconsciously, or there's always going to be something. So anybody who thinks that I'm not going to care about the Torah, and I'm going to be free, and I'm going to have things the way I want. It's not true. There's always something that there's always gonna be some power above you that's gonna control you to some extent. And it's like you better choose Torah, because it will be, if it's not Torah, it will be something else. And just maybe perhaps more psychological interpretation. But I was thinking about that.
You're reminding me of something that the Kotzker Rebbe said. That he said, he quoted Paro, Pharaoh, the king, the Egyptian king, who said that he wants the work to be hard on the people so they won't deal with divrei shaker, with false issues. I don't know exactly how you would translate it. But if the situation is when the people of Israel come, when Moses comes to him and says to him, "Let my people go," and he said, "I will give you more work, because if I will put more work on you, you won't have time to deal with nonsense, like setting yourself free." But the Kotzker Rebbe said, this is something that every person should tell himself, that tichbad avodah anashim, my work should be so heavy that I won't start dealing with nonsense, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way, in the way that this is what my life is circling around. I don't have time, or I don't have the opportunity to deal with nothing. If I am busy with Torah all the time, if that is what makes me busy, that's what takes all my time and my concentration, then really the rest of the things sort of go by. And I think I was connecting to what you said, Rav Shmuel. Anytime you have a job that or something that takes your mind, or you takes the biggest the majority of your concentration or your time, and you can decide what it will be. And sometimes it's not something that is around time, but it's really around what's important to you. Maybe whatever is important takes 5% of your time, but this is what you are dealing with the whole time. Also, when you're at night, also when you're at work, also, when we have chas v'shalom, when we have troubles, we see it, that maybe we deal with them time-wise, not so much in the day, but we think about them from morning till night. And so maybe this is a part of what you said. You choose your yoke, and then the result is what happens with the rest of the things. And maybe this is also the connection between Mishnah 4 and Mishnah 5, right? Mishnah Dalet and Mishnah Hey. Like exactly this, what is the yoke that you're accepting upon yourself? Also in your day time, also in the time of that it's either all Torah, or the yoke of Torah, or the yoke of government and the yoke of worldly concerns, which is Mishnah 5, or in the times where there's presumably no yoke, when you're wake up at night or you're walking alone, and still this is the question, what is the yoke that's on you? I can't ignore, when I went over this Mishnah this afternoon, I couldn't ignore the fact that yesterday the people of Israel lost a giant. That when I read, someone who takes upon himself the yoke of Torah, I saw him in front of my eyes, Rabbi Gershon Edelstein, who was really a leader of thousands and thousands of Jews, and he was really literally. I think he wouldn't read this Mishnah in the sort of discomfortable way that I read it. He would read it out loud, because he dedicated all of his life to Torah. He passed away yesterday, when he was 100 years old. Zichro Yagen Aleinu, that his memory will be for a blessing. And I just must say, in this sense, maybe answering my own discomfort, that it would be very, very good for all of us to learn about Rabbi Gerson Edelstein and other rabbis of similar, other rabbis from his school, which really dedicated all of their life to Torah, all of their life. And they lived in a very, very small apartment, in a very, very poor worldly living. And he dedicated all of his time from morning till night, and not so much he didn't sleep a lot at night. All the time he learned Torah, and he got to amazing heights of knowledge and of leadership, and he was an inspiration and a rabbi for thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I think it would be a merit to learn about him and to understand that there are Jews like that, and to see this as an option for our life, and even not an option, at least taking some of it in, knowing that these kind of people exist also. Shmuel, would you like to end with your thoughts?
Right. I think there's a theme that we've sort of started here, and which will really continue through this chapter, the world of Limud Torah and Bitul Torah, right? Which the importance of Torah study and the sin of wasting time from Torah study. And I think it's good you brought here Rav Edelstein as an example, of course, person who didn't waste a second of his time and dedicate all his time to Torah study. I think it's a very interesting topic, because it's topic which, you know, people like you've been to yeshiva, like myself, it's a very nice concept. You can take very literally, like you said, when you're like in a yeshiva environment, when there's nothing else in your life, and it's just about, you know, how can you study as much Torah as possible. And then you move on in life, and, you know, you have a family, and you have a job, and you have whatever other things you might have, and still holding on to this ideal that Torah study is essential, everything else is secondary. Torah is the light that it should be the concentration of everything. And the only way you can get there, you know, we're not in yeshiva, we're not studying Torah 9-10 hours a day, but the way you can get there is through setting aside times that you hold on to, and holding on to those things, because they are the way you're actually going to make everything else you do in your life meaningful. And I think that's what this Bet Midrash is really about. You know, we have a group of people here who come every week, every Wednesday night, to study Torah, and this is not just a mitzvah for the hour that you come. I think it's something that gives meaning to everything you do throughout the week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rav Shmuel. It was a very insightful learning, and thank you all for joining. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.